Happy Telos Tuesday. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out. This is going to be a really fun event. Great to see so many people here from our community in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm coming to you from London, Ontario, the lesser exciting of the two Londons in the world. I know we've got a global audience here, so let us know in the chat where you're coming from. We've got Jewel here from the Philippines. It's great to see you. I see we've got some other people: Luke, Svishan, FCT. I'm gonna butcher the last bit of that, so I won't attempt to say that name. Circa, yeah. Okay, we got Topo Badger coming in. Lucas from Germany. Great to see you. Thanks for coming out. Hey Neo, always good to have you here. This is going to be lots of fun. So we got two projects here for you this week that we're really excited to introduce you guys to. One is API3. API3 is devoted to simplifying Web3 Oracle infrastructure by connecting API providers with dApp developers seeking off-chain data. API3 works to change the status quo from third-party Oracle networks to first-party Oracle solutions, all while offering better security, efficiency, regulatory compliance, and simplicity to its users. So we're going to have them coming in. And then after that, we've got the KeyFi team. KeyFi is an app-based platform that provides tools to manage all your DeFi needs. KeyFi allows users to handle their assets with ease across multiple chains and platforms. Users can swap, stake, rebalance, deposit, and withdraw their assets all on one platform with the KeyFi app. KeyFi aims to create the best DeFi experience and solve its complex challenges by offering users the ability to juggle multiple wallets, platforms, chains, manually comparing interest rates, and more. So lots of fun. Really great to see all these projects coming to Telos and the Telos EVM. Let's kick things off. We've got actually two Bens for you today. So, don't get too confused, thinking of the Spider-Man meme where there's the three of them pointing at each other. Yeah, two Bens. First, we're going to bring in Ben from the API3 team. So let's bring him in and let's learn more about this project. Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us today.
No, that's okay. Thank you for having me. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a pleasure to kind of run through API3, but firstly, just want to give a shout out to AJ and Jeff, who have been working with us to get us onto the test nets, as well as Jesse, who have been kind of doing some configurations with our development team. So just a kind of thanks to those people firstly, and then yeah, I mean, I'm here to talk to you today about API3. We're basically a first-party Oracle provider, but the kind of talk is going to take a broader, holistic look at how Oracles currently work. Briefly introduce API3, and then talk about what kind of APIs or Oracles we can serve onto Telos. So, shall we crack on?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm really excited for this presentation. And right before we do, anyone who's watching, if you guys have questions throughout the thing, throughout this presentation, just drop them in the chat. At the end of it, at the end of Ben's presentation, we'll have a moment and go through them, ask some more questions, and have a little back and forth before we bring on a KeyFi. So yeah, Ben, why don't you take it away? I'm ready to jump in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just please feel free to ask questions if you have any, even if you think they may sound silly or what's not. There's no such thing, right? Yeah. So look, just a quick intro. Myself, I'm kind of working within the ecosystem capacity, which spans from anything to marketing to kind of business development to partnership. So yeah, that's my kind of viewpoint. I've been with API3 for just over a year, since pretty much the team originally formed, and yeah, it's been an exciting journey. We've kind of kind of evolved a lot in that time, and we're kind of getting ready to what will be our mainnet launches, which I'll go into later. But firstly, just taking it right back to the start. So what is an oracle, which is often the starting point of a lot of conversations? In a nutshell, it's, don't want to overcomplicate this, but an oracle brings useful real world data to smart contracts, and the important part there is useful. There's a lot of data out there, there's a lot of APIs, but ultimately we need to focus on serving data that is going to be executable within smart contracts and actually add value to the applications that are being built on the flip side of that. So that's what an oracle does. An oracle actually was Greek terminology for being able to speak to the gods and the real world. So that's the kind of background there. API3, so we've been around since about late 2020. The team actually has a heritage of operating a marketplace on Chainlink, and saw some kind of fundamental challenges with the architecture there, and hence API3 was born. We've been operating since, we originally ICO'd in late 2020, and we now have a team of about 50 people working across the DAO. I think there's a 17-person engineering team. There's a global sort of partnership ecosystem program running, operations, marketing, etc. So yeah, we've really sort of gained a lot of momentum, even in the last 6 months, really, with what we're doing. The focus for API3 is really the first party Oracle architecture, which I'll dive into first, but I'll dive into later even, but it's sort of, I think personally, what really differentiates us when it comes to A, bringing data to Web3, and B, what the kind of product or what the Oracle is on the other side of that as well. And the future, what we're focusing on is basically a marketplace where people can seamlessly access APIs, and basically streamline how people can access data from Web2. That's the kind of purpose of what we're doing here. And yeah, we are a DAO. The DAO is basically a risk protection collateral pool, and with the DAO is we kind of have the decentralized governance mechanisms that you'd expect from a Web3 infrastructure project. So that's just a real quick overview of us. So this is a kind of starting point of where we're at the moment with oracles, and where we're at with the way that decentralized applications receive data from Web2 sources or centralized sources. And at the moment you have a middle node layer, essentially, whereby an API will operate, or an API owner will operate a validator node, and that validator node will then serve the data into a consensus mechanism. That consensus mechanism confirms the data is correct, then passes that through to the dApp. So we refer to that as a third-party middle node layer. You could argue that is a centralized, sorry, that is an intermediary step that has been introduced. That for some instances, sure, mass aggregation on multiple sources being fed in is warranted, but for a lot of time that isn't a necessary step, and also introduces that intermediary, which is able to then charge the fees that an intermediary would. On that, with that infrastructure, if you're a DApp currently calling an oracle, you're unsure of really what that source of that data is. E.g., you can't assess that middle node layer is being fed in by XYZ data. There's no actual source traceability when it comes to calling that data, and that's something else that we see as a relatively large problem. And obviously, the fundamentals of the decentralized web is transparency. So that's something that we kind of identified as an issue. And then ultimately, there's also a centralized governance mechanism that sits over the top of the data supply chain. So at any one moment, they could make a decision to kind of push things in a certain way, or I'm not saying that people would, but dare I say, if there was an opportunity to sort of play with APIs or manipulate the output, then that's one there. So we as API3, we're focused on scaling the API availability with what is this first party architecture. So we believe that dApp should actually call the source of the data directly. And what that means is the way that we work, a first party node is deployed into the cloud architecture of the API owner, which means when you're requesting that data, you're requesting the data directly from the source. And that also enables dApps to kind of quantify or evaluate what the source is and who the source is, and whether that's a reputable source that people would trust. Some use cases for that might be if you're ordering a parcel, you wanted to for some reason track that on a decentralized app, you would know, you would understand that it's FedEx delivering that. There's no obscurity there. There's no kind of confusion around that. You're dealing directly with FedEx. On the flip side, if you wanted to kind of speak to, if you wanted to power a stable coin and you wanted to use, the Bank of Canada or the Bank of England or whoever it might be, price reference data, you might evaluate that price reference data, if it's being put on chain, it's immutably stored in the ledger, and you might say, okay, I trust that source, and it's a viable single source call for us. So, which obviously then reduces fees for the dApps, etc., etc. So that's point one. Point two was the Oracle problem, as outlined in the Ethereum docs. We actually see that as it's an API connectivity problem, and what that means is there's no easy way to bring APIs onto the blockchain as it stands. There's a lot of barriers to entry, which involves actually setting up the validator node in itself, and that has arguably restricted what data can be served to Web3, and thus maybe restricted, the actual utility of smart contracts. So that's a fundamental belief we have. And then thirdly, we think that in a Web3 infrastructure piece should have a decentralized governance mechanism with the transparency and the kind of voting mechanics that goes with that as well, rather than having a single point of control. So yeah, as I referenced earlier, one of the other factors in this is that due to the need to operate a validator node, there has been a relatively large barrier to entries, particularly unless you're willing to invest in what is a DevOps team to operate a pretty hefty validator throughout the year, and obviously kind of maintain that appropriately. So that is another kind of factor that we saw, and something that we thought we need to kind of really address. So that's a bit of I guess history of oracles and where we're at the moment. So that kind of cues me into introduce AirNode. AirNode is the way that we are basically solving that API connectivity problem, and it's a serverless, very lightweight piece of technology that we're actually seeing people self-deploy now. We have self-deployment guides. The Telos team actually self-deployed AirNode, which is quite interesting, I guess. And if you don't want to self-deploy, what that does is it's a permissionless Oracle or permissionless on-ramp to Web3. But if you don't want to self-deploy, we have an integrations team that we work with about 180 APIs, and we can deploy maybe a couple a day and update that and upgrade that ourselves. So it's very, very little work for the actual Web2 API to kind of get that connectivity to Web3, which is really what we've kind of brought down. And yeah, the crucial part with this is the AirNode is deployed next to the REST API and where that's hosted in the cloud. So what that means is there's no sort of middle layer. You're not calling the middle node layer. You're calling the actual infrastructure of the API, and thus with that you're bringing the reputation of that API on chain. If there's a problem with the data being produced by that API, then where the problem is. It's stored on the blockchain. You can trace that back to the source. At the moment, you don't really have that. So this is a quote from a colleague actually at Ethereum Denver. But a first-party Oracle is an Oracle operated solely by the data source. So actually, what we're sort of doing here is enabling API owners to become Oracle operators in a very lightweight and secure way. And of course, the way that we're looking to develop the DAO is that we offer a risk protection layer back to the individuals who are accessing these oracles. So I may have already gone into this, so I won't kind of dwell on it and kind of run through it again. But yeah, why is this so important? The source effectively serves the data from the infrastructure of the API. That transparency is increased and the reputation is brought on chain. I've already been through that, so I'll kind of skip on. And with this, it's been an interesting journey. Like we have 180 plus API providers who have committed to kind of take their data on chain. We have over 100 deployments now, and yeah, it's kind of a testament to the way that we've approached the building of air nodes, the architecture of air nodes, the way we've approached the APIs, the way we've kind of delivered it to become very easily accessible and simple for people to even self-deploy. So yeah, I mean that's a link to our website. That's a link to the API catalog. You can go in there and sort of take a look at the range of data in there if you want to, which I'll dig into a little bit more later. So yeah, so on to the Oracle's part. So we have two different Oracle products at the moment. There will be a third later in the year, but we have two Oracle products that are basically usable at the moment on testnets, of course, for Telos. And you've got to remember these are all powered by Airnode. So when you think of Airnode as the enabler for people to access data being called from that Airnode as they request or as they wish or you need to. So yeah, the first type is what we're referring to as Web3 APIs. And that basically allows smart contracts to kind of, as a request is sent from the DApp, the Airnode will be waiting and listening, and that will be basically call the data to be fed on chain as it's needed. It's very practical to use when there's only a single call required, and if you think of maybe I'll go into some examples, but if you think of maybe minting an NFT and using a randomness API in that equation, then you only need to request that randomness API once per NFT mint. You don't need to have that randomness consistently fed on chain. Flip side, if you want to think about parametric insurance, you don't need a consistent feed of weather. You just need a stamp of weather maybe once a day or twice a day or at the time of the event to be stamped on chain. So yeah, that's a holistic viewpoint on how that works. What we're seeing here is that it's also got some really niche applications in enterprise, and because Airnode and the first party architecture is so lightweight, actually, applying this to single use cases that you may come across. For example, I recently spoke to somebody this week about who wants to bring medical research on chain. Admittedly, we haven't proactively gone out and kind of deployed Airnode to medical research, but what we can do is very quickly actually get that on chain for people, which for me is it's quite an interesting sort of direction that this is all going. And yeah, again, I mean, I keep kind of skipping forwards a little bit, but the two examples here, we've got a raft of weather and climate change APIs actually. We've got a raft of randomness APIs as well. So yeah, you can start to see how that might be useful. Something I might not touched on is digital identity. If you need to call, maybe it's a customer data via an open banking API, or maybe it's confirming someone's performing KYC, and once that API is performed the KYC process, that outputs a token. That token is brought on chain. That's only a single call that's needed. On the flip side as well, like gaming and esports data, if you're in a prediction market, you would only typically call that a Airnode at the time that the kind of actual numbers are kind of finalized, e.g. the end of the game or the end of whatever event you're deciding to bet on. So yeah, that's a summary of Web3 APIs. The second Oracle product we have at the moment is what we're referring to as Beacon or beacons. And beacons basically more suitable for people for use cases where there needs to be a consistently fed I lost my words there. A consistent feed of data pushed on chain. Again, it's all powered by Airnode. So beacons basically beacons are the output of the Airnode deployment next to the API. And it uses a piece of automation that we're referring to as a keeper to basically update whatever it is that you're requesting as a continuous feed based on deviation thresholds. Obviously, price is the kind of real obvious case here for trading or for whatever you want to perform. And just to kind of dive into that a bit more, let's say you decide to have a deviation threshold of 0.5% or 0.2%. You would, as the price fluctuates, so let's say Ethereum drops 0.3%, you would push that data on chain automatically. I've just had a noise appear, so I hope my sound is all okay. what that does is, yeah, what the benefits of using a beacon is that because you're bringing that reputation of that data source on chain, it's sort of, you're bringing that Web2 entities legacy as a data provider on chain with it as well. So there's 3 or 4 major cryptocurrency price reference providers. You may, if you're kind of in the early stages of building a decentralized application, that decentralized application may only need a single source of data to actually initially power that. As maybe your TVL raises, you may want to aggregate different price feeds, but then you have to bear in mind that with that comes additional costs from a gas perspective, and also obviously from a subscription perspective to actually access that data. So the kind of the upside is that this is a more transparent solution, so you can assess and understand if that single source is appropriate for you. It is very scalable from both how we can deploy data on chain, but also it enables you to access that API directly from the source, which means you're dealing with the API and their subscription services. E.g., there's no intermediary charging a fee, and it's a very it removes the vulnerabilities of a third-party node layer. So that's effectively an overview of beacons. And not to go into this too much, but yeah, I mean, we have a raft of kind of price reference providers. This is just a selection. Within there, you can see Forex data, cryptocurrency pairs, equities, commodities, ETF data. There's things like gas fees, gas fee trackers, volatility, VWAP, so on and so forth. There's a lot of tools that people can access through these providers, and it's a case of sort of, you'll be dealing directly with those entities. So it's a case of going into their docs through our website, which you can do at www.api3.org/APIs, and you'll basically go into there and you can start to figure out which use cases, which APIs are applicable to your use cases. I mean, these are kind of rough for DeFi lending, synthetic assets, stable coins, derivatives, swaps, whatever you want to, whatever your DeFi interest is. And that's a very quick overview of it. So I hope that all makes sense. I don't know if there's any questions, because I can't see any questions at the question box, but if there is, please feel free to kind of fire away, or there's my email address. Feel free to kind of connect with us. I think there's a link to our Discord as well. So we've got a lot of our technical team are in our Discord. So if you have any more kind of engineering focused questions, please do jump in there. And obviously we'd love to have you in the community. But from a practical point of view, that's a good place to head to if you do want to iron out any questions.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for going through that so in depth. That was, I think, one of the most educational experiences I've had on like
You're too kind.
No, it's great, and you really, I think put it in a way that's pretty easy to understand for lay people who don't understand these sorts of tools. And I think that's what's really cool about these sort of projects that are coming on the network now is, we hear those buzzwords, APIs, oracles, things like that. I don't think the average investor necessarily thinks too heavily about those and what the importance of having these tools in place and how that changes the landscape of what an ecosystem can do.
Sure.
So it's really huge that I think to see that presentation, see it laid out so clearly like that, and to have a project with your level of quality bringing that to the space. I don't see any questions here, but guys, if you have any questions, do ask. We don't have a lot of time because we got to get over to our other partner. But I guess my question, I have a couple quick questions on my end. I was curious, is there any sort of projects, niches in particular that you find benefit from this the most, right? And if we're talking to, thinking about other projects that might want to, come to the ecosystem now that we have these tools here, like of the services you provide, what does it impact the most, or is it just everybody?
Well, I mean, we're sort of, I'm reworking the catalog that we have, and I'm breaking it down to categories. So, digital identity, I think, is going to be quite huge. It's probably relevant to all types of projects if you want to operate off a digital ID. I think actually the kind of more niche, like the more niche APIs, there's some things like shipping data, for example, which sounds silly, but when you think about maybe parametric insurance related to shipping goods, and how that might eventually be used to maybe disrupt the market at the moment, like some of the weather APIs that we're speaking to, well, not speaking to, but have on board, they are. There's a lot of derivatives around things like location-based insurance, or maybe insurance of crops, or insurance of weather-based events, for example, particularly as climate challenge or climate change accelerates and becomes ever more prevalent. So things like that, and I think it's quite exciting to see new data sources be brought on chain. What our job is really to do is to incubate how these APIs are being used, and I am a believer personally that bringing this new data on chain will ultimately kind of underpin innovation in the broader Web3 space. So, I mean, that's obviously a bit more of a personal sort of gloat, or not gloat, but mission. But I'd love to see some of these niche APIs that maybe don't have immediate use cases start to be used.
Totally, that's awesome. Yeah, very cool. That actually brought up, we got the collector here asking another question off of that. He says, environmental data partnerships, like the recent one with Ambi, is very interesting. How do you guys see developers using this data?
The Ambi was requested by it's a climate change focused app, I believe, that wanted to play around with a proof of concept. So we deployed that. So yeah, what we're at. So if you're looking at the ecosystem announcements, so we're redeploying Airnodes to all of these APIs because it's been upgraded. So as we bring this into kind of the final deployment round, then that is now sort of officially accessible.
That's awesome. That's really great.
We're sort of marrying up demand for the APIs with how we prioritize the deployment of that with our integrations team.
Yeah, well, that's huge too, right? When you start to introduce these new pieces of data that apps can access, it opens up a whole world of things that developers can do that they couldn't before, right? Like it's a simple blocker that once you get that out of the way, there's so much you can do with that information. And it really opens up all those concepts people talk about that are really theoretical at first. And yeah, now can happen because of this data being on chain. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think this something I see very often across a lot of protocols is that even the kind of rudimentals of DeFi are sometimes not accessible. So yeah, I think giving people the tools to kind of directly connect to these APIs is it's a permissionless Oracle infrastructure. I sort of realized that how valuable that was when I was speaking to people in Ethereum Denver. But if you don't currently have access to what you need, then either you can deploy it yourself, or you can, hopefully within the catalog, we might have something already pre-deployed that you can make use of. So yeah, it's exciting. Again, just thanks to the Telos team for sort of being so professional, and it's been great to work with them so far. So I look forward to kind of seeing where this can go. And as we do move to mainnet, maybe in the kind of middle part of the year, we will be, of course, looking to kind of work with projects who might have interesting use cases, or of course just kind of helping you make the use of the Oracle, and helping each other. Obviously, with a smart contracts platform like Telos, we need to kind of work with you guys to get oracles into your smart contracts, right? So it makes sense to kind of work with people as from an ecosystem perspective to make sure that we're bringing through and supporting people as needed. So that will be probably coming later in the year.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you here alongside all the wonderful apps in the ecosystem. How can projects, interested investors, users, anybody like that get involved? Where should they go? I'm going to drop some links in the chat, but maybe you can give us a quick little,
I mean, I think Discord is where we're pushing people to. We have customer service team operators in there, the developers, the tech team are in there, the engineering team, marketing is in there. So as a DAO, we made an effort to be as transparent as possible, and we decided to sort of operate from Discord as well. So that's a good place to kind of get to know us. The catalog is just down here. So if you just want to take a look at which APIs exist within those 180, please see that there. We are just migrating that to a new CMS, so it's not so bear with. But and then there's also a link there to the docs. If you are building something and want to access it, the docs are pretty comprehensive. you can see you can self-deploy. There's guides to self-deploy Airnode in there. There's pointers to access a beacon, and there's that's probably a good place to start. So good question, and I hope that helps people or anybody watching.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ben, for joining us, not only on Telos Tuesday here, but also just joining the ecosystem and being part of everything that's happening on Telos. We're really excited to have you and your team on board. And I'm sure community will have lots more questions for you, and we've got your links there. And I believe there's an after party after this as well. It's going to happen on Discord. So community members, you can head there and meet up with Thomas Schmid and others to keep the conversation going. So thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Take care. Bye. That was great. Really great to have these projects launching on chain that really changed the landscape like a ton. When you have these little tools that seem small at first, which when you hear, okay, there's an Oracle here or an API or whatever, but the possibilities are so vast once you have those tools here. So on that note, let's bring in another epic project that's launching on our chain soon. We've got another Ben from KeyFi here with us. Hey Ben, how's it going?
Hey, good, thanks. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. It's great to see you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I'm really excited to hear that your project's joining the Telos ecosystem. Why don't we just jump right in? And I know we have a little demo here to share. So should we pull up screen right away as we're talking, or do you want me to lead with some questions on my end, or?
Sure. Yeah. Let's ease into it here a little bit. Maybe probably the number one question is, what is KeyFi?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. So give us your elevator pitch. What is it? Cool. What are you guys doing? And yeah.
So KeyFi is an app that helps you manage DeFi, basically. At a very high level. Further than that, basically, what you do is you connect your wallet. You can connect actually multiple wallets. And then from there, you can check your balances across different chains, different assets, as well as different platforms. So right now, we started off integrating on Ethereum because at the time that was pretty much it, right? I mean, I started doing like dev work in crypto like on a serious basis, like around the end of 2017. And it was just Ethereum smart contracts, right? So learned Solidity and all that. But I guess it was around 2020 or so when Binance Smart Chain started coming out. And then before you knew it, like how many EVM chains are there now? Like, so that's part of the challenge, right? Is to balance, because people want to go to chains because there's different opportunities on different chains, right? People have there's a different project launching there or what have you, right? So people still want to be able to balance all that. So yeah, we creating an app that is able to basically manage all these different things across different platforms, different wallets, different networks, and then give you the ability to improve your control over it. So the first thing that we look at is data. So obviously there's the main data that you have is the data that's coming from your wallets and all of that and your balances. But then we're also looking at general crypto data. So stuff like, price, volume, action, charts. And then we're collecting a lot of other data as well, like, news data, social media data, sentiment data, running it through some analysis. We have different machine learning related projects. We use the data for power and alert system. There's a strategy manager that's integrated with, the different platforms. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different features. We're, the project is still a beta, so it's in a private beta right now, so it's not public release yet. But early adopters are able to use it by staking KeyFi. So if you stake KeyFi, you can access that. But once we're out of public beta, when we've worked through, some of the things that we're working through, then it'll be a more public release, and it'll be easily accessible for everyone. So for now, private beta, but in the near term, once we lock a few more things down, then everybody will be able to get into it there. Yeah. Did you have any specific questions, or do we want to?
No, I'll keep going. I mean, on my end, I was just curious. So, in terms of digital aggregators, sort of what makes you different than others, and maybe that's a good opportunity for us to pull up and share screen, or
for sure.
Here, let me. We got it right here. Oops, sorry. I'll pull it up. And yeah, so yeah, digital aggregators, what makes you different from other ones in the space right now? And what are you trying to achieve there?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here actually, is there a way here we could Vinny, can Vinny still hear me?
Yes, he can. Yeah, we got Vinny on the back end working the working the screen for us.
Okay. All right. So yeah, if you can click through some of the things there, like so you can switch between like wallet and network balances, staking, like all these different sort of different options there for how to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to click through on those so you can see the changes? Or actually, I don't. Yeah. Yeah, and then you can see a breakdown also inside of here. I guess that maybe this account doesn't have too much on it still. So here, is it okay? Can I share my other screen? I think I've got
Yeah,
it
go for it.
working now.
Yeah, share your screen if it's working your end
Awesome.
now. Let me pull this off.
All right, are you able to see this here?
Yes, yeah, let's pull it up. Beautiful. Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah, so basically what we've got here is we've got different wallets connected, right? So what I can do is I can go in and manage my wallets. And so I say here, okay, I've got these different wallets that I've got here tracked and I've got them labeled, right? So let's say if I want to go and create a new stack of wallets. So this is be the basically the group of wallets I want to use, right? So let's say I use this one and this one and this one and this one. Okay, and then oh yeah, I have to name it. So name it stack. Okay, and let's save it. So then I'm going to have this test stack here, right? So then I can go back to the dashboard and I'm going to select that here. And then it takes a second here, but then yeah, it'll fetch the different balances there. And then yeah, I can see, so again, the breakdown by wallet, or I can see the breakdown by networks. In this case, it's mostly on Polygon, but then also Ethereum and my smart chain. Now, if I look over here, then I can get a breakdown of the wallet. So I can view by wallets, assets, or platforms. And then I can also break it down here still. So you can see the specific assets that are hiding inside these different wallets. Like, okay, so these are the tokens inside of that wallet, right? By that view. Or I can just look at it as broken down by asset. And then if I want to see that, now I can see which wallets contain that asset. So it's just different ways that you're able to, view sort of your wallets here. And then you can see by platform. So I'm looking at the different networks, and then it's showing me in here. So for Ethereum, I have stuff on KeyFi and staking, but I also have stuff in Compound, Dydex, and Aave there. So you can see some of that, and that's the same thing here. If you click on like staking, and I go here, you can be able to see those same thing on BSC and on Polygon, right? And if I click that, then I'll be able to see the breakdown of it. Oh, okay, so that's like some liquidity tokens, and some other coins that are staked. So that's the main part of the dashboard here. Then if I scroll down a little bit, there are widgets. So here I just have BTC sort of line chart, the fear and greed index, some news, alerts, research, and then you're able to add more still. So I could change that chart, for example, if I want to change it to KeyFi chart there. And you can see then that'll pop up there instead. So this, the dashboard's all responsive. So right now I'm looking at it on a very small screen on a laptop, but if I have this on a desktop, you're able to get a different kind of view. And also I'm working right now on creating a mobile app for this to pair along with it as well too. So we have an API that's working pretty well, but it's just a web app right now, but once we have the mobile app, that'll go out in the shops, and then you'll be able to check all these balances sort of on the go, right? And be able to do some interactions. The next part is the research. So this is where we can go in and just look at basic data about these different things. So let's say if I want to look up Telos, and then yeah, it'll just take a second to load up some data on there and give you a trading view chart. For that still, and then yeah, some other core data there. So then, yeah, you can use the trading view chart, just same like you would always, right? You can add in some indicators or something, and to help you do that. And then you can also from here create an alert still. So if you want to create a price alert, when Telos goes to $10, right? And then yeah, we can add that up there still. So other things. So hopefully that alarm rings off soon, right? Like,
Exactly.
um, so yeah, so basically going through some of the different actions. So this is, you can do more than just monitor things. You can actually interact with things too. So if I go over here to actions, you can see some of the different things. So I can swap ETH, swap ERC20, add liquidity, remove liquidity. I can do deposit, withdraw, borrow, and repay from Aave. So do some things like that. And this is accessible directly like from the swap screen, right? So here you have a place where you can do a swap, and let's say it would uh yeah, it'll do same thing like it normally would. But the thing here is that you can switch platforms, right? So right now you could switch between Uniswap, ApeSwap, PancakeSwap, QuickSwap, and Curve. And basically, as we go along, we'll be adding lots more. So we mentioned that we're supporting different chains. So here's the different chains that we have for balance fetching right now. So it's basically I think there's a dozen of them or so, including Telos. And then as we develop further, basically what we'll be doing is adding more swap options, right? So we'd be adding more dexes, and then also adding more lend borrow platforms, and finally we'll be adding in the farm integrations as well. So basically be able to swap, deposit, and borrow, and farm all from the same platform across multiple chains. So yeah, so more
That's
on
awesome.
top of that, we've got like a news reader, so you can come in and search through news articles. And then you can add that to a reading list, so you can save that for later. So let's see, keep that there. And then we already showed the alerts, and there's actions. So actions, yeah, this is just the different things. Now, let's say the actions actually are also part of the strategy manager. So strategy manager is something a little more involved, where basically you would create a list of transactions to do to basically achieve some sort of objective. Say I want to do a leverage long on, in this case, Wi-Fi. So I could swap my ETH for Wi-Fi, right? And then I could borrow some funds from Aave, like this. Say I'm going to borrow 10,000 USDT, and then I would swap the USDT for more Wi-Fi, right? And then I would deposit that, and then withdraw. Ooh, I wonder if that might be this one. But so anyways, so the point here is that you can stack these different things together, and then achieve something sort of more complex, that's involving multiple steps, right? And you can create groups as well too. So let's say you want a group that's like to set up your leverage here. Let's say, okay, it's a WBTC leverage, right? So you're setting up leverage, and then you could deleverage or exit your position by following these ones. So that way, basically, you have all the steps here. They're already set up. You already know what you have to do. You don't have to go to the Uniswap front end, the Compound front end, and switch back and forth. You don't have to remember all the stuff. You can have it all stored on here. And the benefit of having these strategies set up is that it actually makes it easy to share. So let's say if you want to create a strategy for like some kind of yield farming, for example, right, on a platform, and let's say you want to share with other people how to do that, you can do that in here. And one of the first things that we're doing for sharing is doing watch lists, kind of as like a test for how like a social feature would work, right? So somebody can go create a list of tokens that they like, and then share it, and then other people can follow it, etc. So that social sort of feature will also be coming in for a strategy manager there. Um, I think that's pretty much covers the main things. I mean, there's other stuff. Obviously, we have like our own yield farming um, sort of pools and stuff here. You can see sort of a transaction history from your wallet transactions. What assets, platforms, etc. And then that'll link out to a block explorer. Yeah, and then there's like a borrow dashboard here too that gives you different options for borrowing still. And yeah, obviously you have to deposit before you can do that. Yeah, I think that's
fantastic.
Yeah, it's most of them. I think a few other small things. We've got it in multiple languages here still besides English. Um, and yeah, that's
I love it.
where we are for now. Still, yeah.
I'm so glad that you brought this like the actual product here to show it. It speaks so much stronger, I think, than just talking about it, to see it like that. And I always love when a project comes in and they're very nonchalant. They're like, "Oh yeah, you can do this thing and this thing," but like the tools and the stuff that you've built there is really huge. And it's stuff that's hard to come by in this space, right? So I can see so many use cases for what you've used there and so many benefits to different users. And two things really kind of stand out to me there. First, a really great UI, right? And I always say that, the projects in the space that are going to stand out from the competition are the ones that have that UI that's really easy to use and looks really nice. And you guys have that there. And another thing that's really cool about your project is just the attention to detail and really going in and adding these features that I don't think other people would really think about, like that leverage section we're showing where you can set up these different automations, or even thinking about the different languages, those small details make such a big difference and bring so much more utility to your project, right? So very cool to see that. I'm super excited that this is coming to Telos.
Yeah, well, and it's funny. Like my background is in software development for like a long time, right? And I've always really sort of focused a lot on user experience. I mean, because that's been a really important part of running a startup, right? One of the startups that I had worked on before was a like a social media influencer messaging app, right? And gosh, we spent so much time working on like onboarding and like really small, if seemingly small details, right? But it really does pay off still, because when you're making these up, you want the maximum amount of people to use them. It's very different than the project that we just looked at before, the API DAO, right? Or that's really for developers, right? That's a project for developers. And you see a ton of these in crypto, which are, and they're needed, right? Because developers need infrastructure, right? But they're not necessarily like focused on user stuff, and that's fine. That's not their objective still. But for us, it's all about the user experience still, right? So I'm not happy with it yet. I don't think it's good enough, but you know what? I think that we have sort of an objective, and we have a kind of a vision of what we want it to be, that as long as we keep pushing towards that, we're going to get to the point where it'll be a no-brainer to use it if you're going to be operating in DeFi. Basically, we want this to be the best, right? So.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Talking about audience side of things, it really seems like there's a use case for any DeFi user in the space, right? Whether they're just your basic person who's transacting and want to keep an eye on their wallet, or if they're a trader or something more than that. Like, do you have a specific sort of audience in particular you're targeting, or you feel like this project will resonate with the most, or is it really just a well-rounded tool for everyone?
Well, there's actually two different user types, I guess, that we'd build this for. One of them is like just a regular user who's doesn't necessarily have to have any particular technical knowledge or anything, right? And like I was saying about how you could share a strategy, that would be a person who would follow a strategy rather than design one, which would be the second type of user, someone who's has a lot of pre-existing knowledge or something, right? And wants to do things that are a bit more advanced, right? And then those people could create strategies to share with others still, right? So you have kind of like almost like a creator kind of creator consumer dichotomy there.
Totally. What inspired you to build this project and to create this tool? Were there gaps you were seeing or things like that? Or, like, do you have trading background yourself, or where did that vision come from?
Yeah, I mean, like I'd been using MakerDAO since like 2018 or something still, right? So for a long time. And I've been watching, some other apps come in and out, and sometimes they'd have some features that I really liked, but there's nothing that brought everything together. Because another thing that I would do is that I would check coin market cap 10 times a day. I would check another news website, like a news feed website, like 10 or 20 times a day, and then I would check like my balance, either in the wallet or in like another app or something. And I was like, I don't want, and then if I even try to do anything, then I gotta switch to another site. So you end up having like 6-7 tabs open, regardless, right? And I'm like, you know what? There's a better way to do this. So I have some friends that do more traditional trading and stuff, and I can't remember what it was called. It was this app. It was like TCM 2000 or is some silly name like that. And it was like a trading platform that had everything, right? It had like a Bloomberg terminal in there, and it had like all the charts, all the indicators, and then it would connect to your interactive brokers account or whatever, and it had like a scripting language for doing automation and stuff. So I'm like, hey, like I want to do all this, but I want to do it for DeFi because I'm not involved in traditional finance, right? Like I can't really get in there still. That's not my thing. Um, so yeah, like I want those tools, and I like the idea of creating automation, and ultimately automation requires two things. It requires data, because the data is going to trigger whatever event that the automation is programmed to do, and the other thing is integration. So it has to be able to actually connect with the thing that it's trying to do, right? So what I ultimately want to see this built out into is something that takes all of the data that we're collecting and analyzing and storing and using, that connects to an alert system. The alert system connects to the integrations, and basically you're automating all of your actions on DeFi, based on strategies that you're designing yourself still. That are using a lot of different types of data, not just the traditional stuff like price volume, but also like sentiment, social data, stuff like that.
That's so cool. And it's really great to have that tooling, to be able to integrate with decentralized exchanges and stuff like that. That's one of those things that's super missing right now, I think, for traders, right? Yeah, you can do the automations and set your, buy orders and stuff like that, but it's got to happen in a centralized exchange, and there's not really any solutions to, interface with the DeFi tools that are out there. So yeah, totally. I see where that vision came from, and it's really cool that you stuck to it. I think it's been a long process, I'm sure, to get here. And on that note, I guess, you're telling me, I mean, I love it. And as any project owner, you're like, it's not quite right yet. We still got stuff to do. What's next for you with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So next one feature that we've been working on for a while now is Dex Charts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we lost him there. Let's see, he's back in. Lost you for a second there, Ben. You still around? Well, while we're waiting for him to join back in, it's funny, I don't know, technical issue there, but guys who are watching, please check out this tool. I'm going to drop a link in the chat really quickly for you guys, and you can go find out everything about KeyFi and connect with their community. You can follow them on Twitter here, and drop it here. Follow them on Twitter, visit their website, visit their Telegram. Go there for sure. And it looks like he's trying to come in, and for some reason there are some technical issues there. I'm going to see if our backend tech Michaela can help out with that. In the meantime, maybe we should bring in, we got a backup here, Vinny. Maybe I'll bring you in real quick, put you on the spot for a second. Hey, Vinny, how's it going? I don't know what's happening there on the technical side, but we are getting really close to the wrap of things anyways. So maybe you can help take it home really quickly. What's next for you guys? What are some of the things that are to come in the near future?
Yeah, so we have sort of two different strategies to scale. Right now, we've been in product development since December 2020, and yeah, we're just rolling out all these great features, and we're in private beta. But now we want to basically get more user adoption, so we're sort of scaling to other chains, Telos included. And right now we're on 8 different chains. We're looking to double that relatively soon over the next few weeks, and hopefully 5x that in the next few months. And so we're reaching out to different ecosystem funds, different networks, and we're getting support. So we're looking to just expand the user base and just market test this thing and see which features get the most traction and which features we should focus on, which platforms we should integrate next. Yeah. So going to market.
That's super exciting. Hence coming to Telos, right, and being here for the community. What's the best way for users, traders, even projects, who maybe wanted to get involved in things to to start getting involved in the project?
Yeah, you can go to our website. You can jump into our Telegram and find me and Ben in there. You can email me at vincent@keyfi.com or ben@keyfi.com. Yeah, Telegram is what we use the most. We're also on Discord as well on our website. Oh, Ben's back.
Wonderful. We
Sorry,
got
guys.
you, Ben. How's it going?
Good, good. Yeah, I got dropped there. Sorry.
No, I'm glad you made it back. We were just talking about some of the stuff that's up next for you guys. Vinny was just talking about the you know, growing adoption of the project and stuff like that. On the development side, is there anything else that's sort of next for you there?
Yes. So the things I wanted to tell you about, one is the Dex Charts. So we've been working a long time on basically pulling in all of the Dex chart data from every Dex on every chain. So this is obviously a pretty large scale project, but once that's done, then we'll be able to integrate that into the app. Another one that we're working on releasing our second machine learning feature. So our first machine learning feature was the recommendation engine, which I actually forgot to show you guys on the demo there. But basically, what it does is it analyzes your wallet and then also analyzes, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of other wallets, and gives you some ideas of what tokens you might be interested in based on your existing holdings. And that feature will get evolved further over time. But then the next one is a market analysis. So basically, we're using OpenAI's GPT-3 API to generate text derived from market analysis coming from multiple different points, and then it's providing a summary on, I think, 100 or 200 different tokens, like of the top 100 or top 200 tokens, just giving a daily summary on that. So that's another feature that's coming. And then we've got a bunch more sort of UI updates that are coming in for the dashboard. Be able to resize widgets. You know, a few more sort of like small details, and then lots more integrations. So by the end of the year, we're looking to increase our number of integrations, not just monitored ones, but ones that you can actually interact with, to over 500 still. So there's obviously a scaling process for that, but those are the next things that are coming. So Dex Charts, market analysis powered by AI, and lots more integrations, so DeFi integrations, exciting, including Telos. Yeah,
we love it. That's so exciting. It sounds like such an exciting, really time for your project. You know, you've done so much so far, but there's still all this stuff coming, and it feels like the floodgates are going to open for you guys. So we're really happy to have you here on the Telos ecosystem and growing here, so that we can, you know, come along for the ride and watch you guys develop and go from here, and have also these tools in the ecosystem. I think it's something that we've been lacking. So it means a lot that you guys have, you know, brought this project to Telos and are continuing to grow things in that way for us. So thanks so much, guys, for watching. We've dropped those links in the chat again, so make sure you head over to their Twitter, their website, their Telegram there, and get connected. I think that's all we have time for. We have a couple of more minutes. Is there anything else that we didn't cover, Ben or Vinny, that we should touch on before we wrap?
No, all good.
Beautiful. Well, thanks so much for coming out, guys. It's really great to have you here joining us and joining the ecosystem. Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you around, and the community, you can always head over to your Telegram if they have more questions. And we got that Discord after party happening with Thomas from the community team as well, so guys can come there and you know, keep the conversation going. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you coming out.
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks,
guys.
See you.
See ya.
Well, there you have it. Two really cool projects coming and building on the Telos ecosystem. You know, we're going through such a growth period right now, and it's just wild to see that, right? After it just speaks to Telos and what it is, right? Which is this community of builders that are constantly innovating the space around us. You know, projects are just piling on right now. It's really great to have events like this where we can bring in two at once, really, just because there's so much happening. So we really appreciate the community and all of you guys coming out to join us for this event and taking the time to get to know these projects. Go check them out, right? Get involved, join their communities, ask questions, and take action in the apps as well. It's really powerful that we have these tools. Let's get the word out there and start using them. So thanks for joining us again. Make sure you subscribe down below so that you can be notified about the next time we go live in our next event. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you all around. Be sure to head over to telos.net and follow all our socials there and stay connected to everything happening in the ecosystem, because things are just going crazy right now, and you don't want to miss anything. All right. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again on our next Telos Tuesday. Yeah, have a great week, guys. Bye.